Good afternoon from Miami Beach. Dr. Bennett of Neurosurgical TV. We have another in the weekly meetings of the Association for Future African Neurosurgeons, and I'm going to turn it right over to Nathalie Gumpsey. Hello, Nathalie.
Hello, John. Hope everything is fine for you.
Okay, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks to this presentation of today. Today, we are going to assist to the presentation of Dr. Nuruddin and Dr. Kabulo. Dr. Nuruddin will present us on the diffuse intrinsic pontine gliomas, and Dr. Kabulo will give us the most recent WHO classification of central nervous system tumors. So we'll start by presenting everyone. I'm seeing maybe faces that I'm seeing for the first time, amongst which there's Aminata. Let me start by the woman, please. Please, can you present yourself, Aminata?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. I am Aminata Sala. I am training in Zimbabwe in neuro. I'm a neurosurgical registrar. That's me, but I originate from the Gambia.
Please, can you mute yourself, Stefan, Dr. Nuru, and Dr. Kabulo, because we didn't get Aminata clearly. Thanks.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can get you.
Okay, so I said that I'm Aminata Sala. I'm a trainee in neurosurgery, training at the University of Zimbabwe with Kabulo and Yenga Yenga, and I hail from the Gambia.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aminata, and welcome. Dr. Yenga Yenga, this is the newest line.
Yes,
Please,
thank you. I'm Yenga Yenga. I'm doing neurosurgery at the University of Zimbabwe, but I'm from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay, just like Dr. Kabulo.
Yes.
Okay. Next, Dr. Kabulo, please can you present yourself?
Okay, thank you. My name is Kabulo. I'm from Congo, final year neurosurgery resident at the University of Zimbabwe.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kabulo. Dr. Nuru?
Hi everybody. Welcome to join with us this evening. I am Nuruddin Bankole. I am in Rabat WFNS Reference Center of Training of Young Neurosurgery in Africa. So I am happy and glad to have all of you here this evening. I will present you diffuse intrinsic glioma pontine about child and how you have to manage that nowadays in our context in Africa. So thank you all to come, and nice to meet you.
Okay, you can start.
Okay, great. I will start to share my screen if everybody is ready. Okay. Yes, it is good now.
Yes. You want to make it bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it is okay?
Hold on. Yes, excellent. Okay.
Okay, great. So hello everybody. I will talk to you about childhood brainstem glioma, the multimodality management result about our series, and the management and prognosis review of literature. We will use this plan. So I will go to introduce primary brain tumor, including brainstem glioma, are a diverse group of disease that together constitute the most common solid tumor of childhood. Immunohistochemical analysis, cytogenetic and the molecular genetic findings, and the measure of mitotic activity are increasingly used in tumor diagnosis and classification. Brain tumors are classified according to histology, but the tumor location and extent of spread are important factors that affect treatment and prognosis. Approximately 300 to 400 pediatric brainstem tumors are diagnosed each year in the United States. Diffuse intrinsic pointing glioma, DIPG, accounts for approximately 75% to 80% of pediatric brain stem tumors and constitute 50 to 20% of all CNS tumors in children and the main cause of death. Most children with DIPG are diagnosed between the age of 5 and 10 years, and focal pilocytic astrocytoma in the brain stem occur less frequently. The goal of our study is to highlight how a literature review since 1975 to nowadays, the progress in the management of DIPG in children and to reach a consensus in our context in Africa and to share our experience with multimodal management neurosurgery department. So this is our retrospective mother-centric studies, including all children with DIPG brainstem who managed between January 2008 to December 2018. We study sex, age, clinical.
Sorry, someone speaking in back. No, sorry, we can hear.
Hello?
Yeah, we can get you the tunnel.
Okay. So about our result, we include 12 patients with the average age 6.4 years with a range like 1.3 years to 17 years. The sex ratio is 2 with 67% of boys and 33% of girls. All of our patients have raised intracranial pressure with associated of hydrocephalus in 50 of our case. 83% had ataxia and unilateral intracranial nerve involvement, and all of our patients perform CT scan and MRI. So about our management, in our department, we perform biopsy stereotactic on 3 cases to have histology, and 2 patients have focal resection. We had 50% of our patients who benefited shunt because acute hydrocephalus, and all of our patients had benefited neuro-oncologic treatment. And in our cases, we have 3 cases who are benefited directly chemotherapy and therapy before multidisciplinary staff and didn't benefit any surgery procedure. About the discussion, we have to know that most children with DIPG are diagnosed between the age of 5 and 10 years. In our series, we have average age like 6.4 years with range like 1.3 years to 17. The common presenting symptoms include the following: raised intracranial pressure with associated hydrocephalus, unilateral hemiparesis sometimes, and unilateral cranial neuropathies and ataxia. In our series, we found all of our patients raised intracranial pressure with associated hydrocephalus in 50% of cases. 83% of our patients had ataxia and unilateral intracranial nerve involvement. It is about this paper who was published in 1975, who classified 4 distinct groups of brainstem glioma on CT scan characteristic. The group 1, like you can see here, it is included isodense contrast enhancing tumors that were dorsally exophytic in 4 ventricles. Group 2, we have group 2A and group 2B. About the group 2A, that is including hypodense, non-enhancing intrinsic tumor of the brainstem, like you can see here. We don't have here no enhancing. And the group 2B, like you can see here, including intrinsic tumor of the brainstem with hyperdense exophytic exophytic component extending ventrally and laterally into the cerebellopontine and prepontine system. The group 3 included brainstem with contrast intrinsic capsule, and group 4 including focally intrinsic tumor of the brainstem that were isodense and intrinsic brightly on administration of contrast. In our cell, we have 33% of group 1, 33% of group 2, and 25% of group 3, and 9% of group 4. So nowadays, what about the management? I found this paper in literature about PDQ, Pediatric Treatment Editorial Board, who was published online in September 28, 2018. Nowadays, when you have newly diagnosed childhood brainstem, like diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, you can go directly to radiotherapy. Focal brainstem glioma, you can go directly to surgical resection with or without chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Observation with or without cerebrospinal fluid diversion, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, like an alternative approach for unresectable tumor. When we have in case about recurrent and progressive childhood brainstem glioma, like in case about this diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, there is no standard treatment. If that is focal brainstem glioma, you can repeat surgical resection, radiotherapy, and go also to chemotherapy. But in our series, like our study in my result, we perform biopsy stereotactic on 3 cases to have histology before to send patient to neuro-oncology department, and 2 of our patients have focal resection. 6 of our patients come with acute hydrocephalus, and we perform shunt like ventricular cystostomy. And all of our patients go after all this management to neuro-oncology treatment. But in 3 cases, we perform we prefer to send our patient directly to neuro-oncology department after multidisciplinary with neuro-oncologic pediatric, neurosurgery, neuroradiologist, and we send our patient to neuro-oncology directly. We don't perform BST, we don't perform focal resection because it is DIPG, and we send them directly to neuro-oncology department. And like we can see here about the type of histology that you can occur in DIPG. It is grade 1 or 2 of who astrocytoma. We can have a ganglioglioma, grade 3 astrocytoma, glioblastoma multiforme. And if you look here to see about outcome, we see that the mean follow-up period to 4.5 years occur in 10 patients to 11. But about grade 3 glioblastoma multiforme, 0 patients alive, mean survival time to 6 months. And the same times about glioblastoma, we have multiforme, we have 0 alive, mean survival time to 1 year. So just grade 1, grade 2 can have good outcomes to 4 years. But about focal intrinsic cystic tumor, like grade 1, 2 astrocytoma, we have the follow-up period in this study was 8 months. To 8 months, we just have 1 patient. And 2, 3, 4 years, about grade 1, 2 for focal intrinsic solid tumor, you can have like 2 at 3 years follow-up. So maybe focal intrinsic solid tumor need to be managed before neuro-oncology focal resection. But that is in this context in 1975, and this paper was published in 1986 in Journal of Neurosurgery. In our series, we have ganglioglioma. Sorry. in our series, we have 2 cases of ganglioglioma, 1 case of grade 2 astrocytoma, and 3 cases of glioblastoma, and 3 cases of grade 1 astrocytoma pilocytic. So what about the review of literature? Many papers, like this paper we can see here, that encourage that we have dramatic improvement in survival has been achieved for children and adolescents with cancer. So between 1975 and 2010, childhood cancer mortality decreased by more than 50%. That is very important. So that's what is the explication about that. Many of the improvement in survival in childhood cancer have been made as a result of clinical trials that have attempted to improve of the best available accepted therapy. Clinical trials in pediatrics are designed to compare new therapy with therapy that is currently accepted as standard. This comparison may be done in randomized study of 2 treatment arms or by evaluating a single new treatment and comparing the result with those that were previously obtained with existing therapy. The prognosis in literature. I recommend you to find this paper, Management and Outcome of Focal Low Grade Brain Stem Tumor in Pediatric Patients. The median survival for children with DIPG is less than 1 year. That is clear for all of them. That is why we ask nowadays for ourselves, there is any benefit to go to harm brainstem of children if we are convinced that it is DIPG. In contrast, when we have focal astrocytoma, like pilocytic astrocytoma, in this case, we can have improved of prognosis with 5 years overall survival exceeding 90%. About the prognosis factor include the following. It is histology grade of the tumor, astrocytic tumor predominant in the brainstem. Who grade 1 tumor, example like pilocytic astrocytoma and ganglioglioma, have a favorable prognosis and can arise throughout the brainstem, including the tectum and the midbrain, focally within the pons, or at the cervico-medullary junction where they are often exophytic. I think we talked about that when we done last last Friday FCP tumors. In contrast, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma are diffuse astrocytoma which, when biopsied at diagnosis, can range from a low-grade fibrillary astrocytoma who grade 2 to glioblastoma who grade 4. So, at post-term evaluation, DIPG are also generally anaplastic astrocytoma who grade 3 or glioblastoma who grade 4 by morphological criteria, although who grade 2 regions can also be identified. Age at diagnosis, you have to know children younger than 3 years diagnosis with DIPG may have a more favorable prognosis, perhaps reflecting different biological characteristics. Low-grade fibrillary astrocytoma who grade 2 occurring outside the pons in other brainstem locations tend to be focal tumor with a more favorable prognosis. Neurofibromatosis type 1, so children with neurofibromatosis type 1 and brainstem glioma may have a better prognosis than other patients who have interesting lesion. So please, we have these beautiful children who tell us, please do not harm my brainstem. Please don't harm brainstem of our children. So what is prognosis and classification of childhood brainstem glioma? About the cytogenetic characteristic of DIPG, the genomic characteristic of DIPG appear to differ from those of most other pediatric high-grade glioma and from those of adult high-grade glioma. The molecular and clinical characteristic of DIPG align with those of other midline high-grade glioma with a specific like H3K27M mutation in histone H3.1 or H3.3, which led the World Health Organization to group these tumors together into a single entity. In one report of 64 children with thalamic tumor, 50% of high-grade glioma had H3K27M mutation, and approximately 10% of tumor with low-grade morphological characteristics had an H3K27 mutation. And the 5-year overall survival was only in 6% of cases. In another study that included 202 children with glioblastoma, 68 of the tumor were midline, primarily thalamic, and had H3K27 mutation. 5 years for this group was only 5%, which was significantly inferior to the survival rate of the remaining patients in the study. A number of chromosomal and genomic abnormalities have been reported for DIPG, including the following. It is histone H3 gene, activin A receptor type 1 gene, receptor tyrosine kinase amplification, and TP53 deletion. The gene expression profile of DIPG differ from that on non-brainstem pediatric high-grade gliomas, further supporting a distinctive biology for this subset of pediatric glioma. Pediatric H3K27M mutant tumor rarely show MGMT promoter methylation, which explains the lack of efficacy of temozolomide when it was tested in patients with DIPG. So approximately 80% of DIPG have a mutation in a specific amino acid in the histone. This mutation is observed in pediatric high-grade glioma at other midline locations, but is uncommon in cortical pediatric high-grade glioma and in adult high-grade glioma. An autopsy study that examined multiple tumor sites like primary, contiguous, and metastatic in 7 DIPG patients found that the H3K27M mutation was invariably present, supporting its role as a driver mutation for DIPG. Activin A receptor type 1, approximately 20% of DIPG cases have activating mutation in the activin A receptor gene, with most occurring concurrently with H3 mutation. Germline mutation in ACVR1 cause the autosomal dominant syndrome fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, FOP. Although there is no cancer predisposition in fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, that is another topic. Receptor tyrosine kinase amplification occurs in approximately 30% of cases, with lower rate of amplification observed for some other receptor tyrosine kinase. About the follow-up cellular classification of whole brainstem glioma, an autopsy study that examined multiple tumor sites in 7 DIPG found that PDGFR amplification was variably present across these sites, suggesting that this change is a secondary genomic alteration in DIPG. DIPG tumor commonly show deletion of the TP53 gene on chromosome 70p. Additionally, TP53 is commonly mutated in DIPG tumors, particularly those with histone H3 gene mutation. Aneuploidy is commonly observed in cases with TP53 mutation. In conclusion, brainstem tumors was classified according to histology, but tumor location and extent of spread are important factors that affect treatment and prognosis. Approximately 200 to 400 pediatric brainstem tumors are diagnosed each year in the United States. DIPG accounts for approximately 75% to 80% of pediatric brainstem tumor and constitute 50 to 20% of all CNS tumors in children and the main cause of death. The key point, multidisciplinary staff have to be a gold standard in management nowadays, and what is the place of surgery nowadays in DIPG of children? And there are any place of genetic study nowadays in Africa about brainstem DIPG in our context. And that is our reference. I recommended you to go to read more than that in literature. And I want to thank you for your attention, and your comments and approach are welcome. So that is our work. I would like to share that with you. You can go to read that about child spinal cord compression without trauma, about 133 13 cases in Senegal. And thank you for your attention. So,
okay,
John, I am finished.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mauro. Sorry, I'm the one who's the moderator. Then I'll take the next. Please, if anyone has any question, the person can ask Dr. Noor for better enlightenment. Hello?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, I just want to know if everybody's getting.
I'd like to comment. I'd like to thank you very much, Naru, for your continuing support of this platform. This particular group is growing, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, John. It is my great pleasure to work with you and all of them.
Hello. I can see we have new members join, so I'll just leave them to present themselves. Then I'll start by the person who's just next to me. She can present herself for everyone.
Hello, good evening. I'm Dr. Lekane, 4 years of resident neurosurgery in Cameroon.
Welcome.
Great.
Okay, did you get everyone? Please, Dr. Noor, can you stop sharing your screen for a while?
Okay, let me please, okay. Okay, it is, okay, good. Okay.
Introduce Dr. Mba, Nathalie.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Mba, please can you present yourself?
Hi, my name is Dr. Mba. I'm a final year neurosurgical resident from Cameroon, currently studying in Zimbabwe.
Oh,
okay, Dr. Mba, nice to know that you're our confraternal. So please, can you present yourself, Dr. Imad?
Hold on. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Imad. I'm a resident in neurosurgery in Morocco, and my friend and my colleague, Dr. Nuruddin, told me about this group, and it was my first time to attend this representation. It was very helpful, and I like it. And I will be here, and I will try to attend more representation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Imad. Now is Dr. Musa Denu. Please can you present yourself? Please, Dr. Musa, unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself. Yes.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning, everybody.
Go ahead, Musa.
I am from Morocco. I am resident in third year. I am a friend of Dr. Nudin Bankole.
Okay, thank you. Morocco is actually...
I have a question. Yes, I have a question. question for his presentation.
Dr. Musa,
Before I have a question.
Dr. Musa, please, we're still presenting. There are others. Can we finish and then you ask questions? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just seeing M. Please, can you just M? That's all what I see. Can you present yourself, please? M? Okay, then we'll start with questions. I think that M is not. Yes, Dr. Musa, yes. Please ask your question.
Before my question, I will say thank you to Dr. Nordin Bankume for his nice presentation. I want to ask him if there is a relation between DBH and Lee-Froehlich syndrome. I think you understand my question.
I don't hear you correctly, Musa.
The Lee-Froehlich syndrome.
The left?
The Lee-Froehlich syndrome. Froehlich syndrome. It is a disease. Is there a relation between this syndrome and DBH?
Can you repeat the what? Light?
The Lee-Froehlich syndrome. It is a syndrome.
Please, can you write that, please, here about your syndrome?
Okay. That's
a good idea.
Yes, you can write that in comment like that. I will. Okay. Lee-Froehlich syndrome and GBM. Yes, of course. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I understand what you said. Of course, you know that this syndrome, you can find this syndrome in DIPG brainstem, but it is not commonly frequent. Because Lee-Froehlich syndrome, you can have that, but it's not frequent in DIPG brainstem glioma. But we know that nowadays we have a correlation between this syndrome and glioma. Yes. Maybe if you have something to add that, you can share that with us.
Okay, Mr. Second syndrome, you said that in your presentation that there is no data for Africa now in the classification.
Yes,
what can you do how can you do to change this situation in Africa for the diagnostic of DBH in tumor? Do you have a proposition for this?
Okay, I think that nowadays we have to go to multidisciplinary first. About the management, we have to discuss with neuropediatric oncology, neuroradiology, neurosurgery. We have together find a way to diagnose this pathology and know that in this case, in this situation, we have DIPG brainstem. If you have DIPG brainstem, please, it's not don't go to operate, because we know that DIPG children have less than 1 year. Maybe we can give that more than that, but it is in literature, we don't see paper who show that we have more than 1 year survival patient with DIPG brainstem DIPG. It is not common reported that we can have more than 1 year. But nowadays in our context, we have to know to diagnose this clinically all tumor of cranial fossa posterior. You have to know to diagnose that and go for MRI, because now MRI is the gold standard. And if in MRI you see that your brainstem have infiltration, you have DIPG, you can go directly to see. Maybe if you have hydrocephalus, you have to go to shunt, because acute hydrocephalus can can make your children to deaf if you don't do anything. If you have acute hydrocephalus, you have to do something. But if you don't have hydrocephalus, just DIPG, you can go directly for neuro-oncology treatment. Don't harm brainstem. Don't harm brainstem. Nowadays, I think it is important to know that DIPG go directly for multidisciplinary section and go directly for neuro-oncology treatment. But if you have focal brainstem and you feel with cyst, you can perform if you want biopsy stereotactic to just to down function of cyst with big. You have to pay attention because it's not easy to perform stereotactic biopsy in brainstem. So if you see that you have like astrocytoma grade 1, and that is common in mid-brain, you can go to perform focal resection, but don't go to flower of 4 ventricle. You have to done limit resection and send the patient to neuro-oncology. But DIPG pure of brainstem, don't touch, please send them to neuro-oncology treatment.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Thank you, dear friend.
Thank you, Dr. Guru. There's just a new panelist who presents himself, Dr. Franklin. Please present yourself and then we continue.
Okay. Good evening, guys. I'm Dr. Tetino Franklin, medical student coming from Université des Montagnes. I've taken my graduations just recently. So it is the reason why I was a little bit not with you, because I was focused in my study. So I recently finished it. So by this time I will be with you at things every sessions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Franklin. Then Eric, Dr. Eric just joined us. Please, can you present yourself?
Hey, hello everyone.
The Harvard guys, welcome.
Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. We had a meeting, so.
No, don't worry. I know. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So for everyone, I'm Ulrich Sidney, research associate at Harvard's program in global surgery and social change. Nice to meet you.
He's also the founder of AFAN.
Go ahead, Zolo.
I think.
Hello.
Go ahead, Zolo.
Hi, Zolo. Please present yourself.
Okay, I am Zolo. I'm Zolo Ivan, a fifth-year medical student from Cameroon and a member of the Association of Future African Neurosurgeons. Happy to be there with you.
Okay, thank you to join us. So, please, is there any other question for Dr. Nuru? So, Dr. Nuru, me myself, I have some questions. I saw that many of your patients arrived. Yeah. Many of the patients arrive with already having high CP or the hydrocephalus or ataxia. There's some reasons, particular reasons why they arrive late. I think they arrive late. That's what I think when they arrive at that state. Are there some reasons particular to that?
You ask, your question is why we can have in clinical form hydrocephalus and intracranial raised?
No, I'm just asking. No, your patients arrive, I think, late when they already have hydrocephalus and high CP. I think they're already it's just an advanced form. Was there a particular reason? in your country, in the country where
I think, yeah, I understand what you want to say. I think that maybe patients come late because they go first to see maybe pediatric generalist doctor. And like I told last Friday when I present FCP tumors, you can have those patients, those children who come late because they go to see first pediatric or generalist, and they treat them like a gastrointestinal illness. In case of FCP tumors, you can have vomiting, ataxia, and disturbance of gait, ataxia, and sometimes they go to see a generalist and they give them drug to stop vomiting. But they don't do the diagnosis so soon clinically, and that is when they have they lost conscience, they lost consciousness. Like in this case, they come to see a neurologist because they feel maybe they lost conscience, or they have a problem of, or sometimes we can have seizure. When they done seizure, they can come back quickly to neurologist. But we have to cheer our competence with the population. We have to tell them about the symptoms and signs in children. We have to done, I don't know, campaign in our country to done sensibilization for all of our population, that like that they can know when they will see their children vomiting, done this, ataxia or gait, disturbance of gait. They will know, maybe my children have this pathology. I have to go directly to see neurosurgeon pediatric or neurosurgeon directly. And we have to fight to have MRI in our country. All of our country have to have MRI. That's the help of to do good diagnosis about FCP tumors and brainstem tumors.
Okay, thank you. Then the second question is for all the residents. Is there a particular reason why these kind of tumors are not sensitive to chemotherapy? Is there a particular reason?
But I think, bon, maybe I will let if somebody want to answer. If not, I will give my opinion about that with what literature said about that. If somebody want to answer like that, because this session is interactive session. If somebody want to comment or to give us to share with us something, they can he can go ahead, please. There is anybody who want to answer this question from Natalie Gamsi, or I have to go ahead?
Looks like it's just you, Noro.
I don't know if you got the question. Please, to all the residents, I was just asking, why is this tumor not sensitive to chemotherapy? Why does it need mostly radiotherapy? Or if not in the brainstem, it needs surgery? I don't know. Why?
You want to know why DIPG brainstem don't be sensible to chemotherapy?
Yeah, why are GRPGs in general not sensitive to chemotherapy?
But not all DIPG don't be sensible. You have type of DIPG. That is why we have to. I done my presentation in prognosis about genetic and molecular. So it depends the type of DIPG. Some types can be sensible for chemotherapy and those not to go to radiotherapy. It depends the gene, the histone. You have, it is very complex, but it is not all the DIPG tumors who will be I am not neuro-oncological, but I know that in literature it is reported that depends the type of tumors, and they perform immunohistochemistry and biogenetical study to know what gene this tumor express, and depend of this gene, they prefer to go to chemotherapy or to radiotherapy. Okay. But in our context, we just here in Morocco, we just have immunohistochemical, but about genetical study, it is not. We don't start that not yet. Okay. But
please, how I answer for this question?
Yes, go ahead, Musa.
DIPG tumor are not soft tumors, they are solid tumor. And generally for chemotherapy, is for soft tumor. In this kind of tumor, the tumor are focal, it is not diffuse. It is a solid tumor. And for the solid tumor, generally it is radiotherapy focused in the tumor. We can be in another part of the brainstem, we have to use chemotherapy. Generally, chemotherapy is tumor who can expand in other part of the brainstem, but DVHD tumor are solid tumor who are focal, but it is necessary. You must use radiotherapy to focus on the tumor. I think that is the question for the answer of the question. If you are anything to add to this.
Yes, Musa, you are right. But in we have to know that some tumor have gene. Depends the gene that they express. Yes. They express. Sometimes in neuro-oncology, medical doctor can prefer to go to chemotherapy or to go to radiotherapy, I think.
Okay.
Is there any other questions so that I can go further?
You say?
Is there any other question so that we can get along?
Yes. If we don't have any question, we can go. We can move to Dr. Kabulo presentation.
Okay. Thank you once more, Dr. Nuru. You're one of our big bros in AFAN, and we are really grateful for the work that you do.